Old School Bodybuilding Clothing Company. If it's been 3.5 hours since you last ate protein and now you're starting to freak out, you are old school. If watching someone sit on a hammer machine for 5 minutes between sets playing with their phone pisses you off, you are definitely old school. OSBBC.com for the hardest training athletes.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body, and that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, diet, training, supplementation, IFBB, pros, news, whatever is on your mind is all on the table. Now, generally, as you can see here, I am not coming to you from the RX Muscle New York studios. That room is currently in use by my grand aunt. I am currently coming to you from my 3-year-old's room. I am your host, Sadiq Faruqi. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, hilarious episode last night up after hours. Hilarious, but it led to something a little bit more of a serious nature topic. And that is, well, first of all, we saw Big Lenny breaking a bottle over his head and you all reacted to it. But then we talked about the Olympic runner who I believe won't be allowed to compete because of a failed steroid test. She then proceeded to blame the steroid test failure on a burrito.
Pork burrito. They're vilifying pork again. Now, you know what? I didn't really know what the reason was, but I went back and looked while we were doing the show, and I saw that they supposedly that pigs can produce nandrolone-like compounds in their system. So somehow they equated that's why the runner failed, because she ate the pork burrito, which is ludicrous, of course. But what I think happened was, they all use anabolics. Everyone knows that. But most of them use like very short-acting anabolics so that if they get tested, the stuff's out of their system right away. But there's so much fake stuff out there on the market now that you could think you're using something like really fast-acting, like trembolone acetate maybe, or Winstrol. And theoretically, it could be tainted with Deca. They could have put Deca in there because it's cheaper instead of Masteron or something like that. And she probably was using something fake. And that's why I tell everyone, I know I sound like a broken record. I sound like your mother's, asking about your homework. But I'm telling you, the reason I give out information is because it's necessary. And test your steroids. I tell the women this especially because these women use Anavar, thinking it's Anavar. They say, oh, it comes from a good source. I know the guy. Guess what? Test it. And you know what? 50% of the Anavar out there is Dianabol because it's cheap to make. It's way cheaper to give someone a Dianabol pill and charge them an Anavar price because the price of a Dianabol pill is probably 50 cents. The price of an Anavar pill could be $2, $3 sometimes. That's a huge difference in profitability. Same thing with injectables. Primobolan is the most expensive raw material you can buy for any anabolic steroid. And it's not even that strong, but for women can use small doses of it. The problem is that 99% of the Primobolan out there is actually testosterone propionate. And the reason I know this is because I sell these Roy test kits on my DavePalumbo.com website. We sell a ton of them. And people as soon as they get something that comes back bad, they send me an email with the color, with the vial, and say, what does this look like to you? I'm like, it's test propionate. What does this look like to you, this pill? Unfortunately, it's dianabol. I see it all the time, okay? So, it's, especially if you get, now, for someone who's not getting drug tested like bodybuilders, it doesn't matter. But if you're an Olympic runner and you're doing a little gear on the side, you know, in your off season, trying to, you know, because what they do is they can't do it during the running season because they're getting tested all the time, okay? Too suspicious. But when they train in the off season to try to get better for the coming year and build strength, that's when they use the anabolics. Now, if anyone knows anything about DECA, nandrolones can stay in the system for up to 18 months, the metabolites. So if she used it, say, in January when she was training and there was no running season, and to put on some strength, and she thought she was taking, you know, like I said, like a short-acting compound, like maybe like a, you know, like a Winstrol or a Masteron or something like that, and she was actually taking nandrolone, now she's screwed for the next, theoretically, 12 to 18 months. She's going to test positive, and that's probably why she's so like, how the hell can I test positive? So they got to blame it on a pork burrito, which obviously the Olympic Committee didn't buy, and they banned her for 4 years, and she was the record holder. She probably would have won the gold medal at the Olympics. Great runner for the United States. So, guys, the take-home message is get your roid test, check your stuff out, men, women. Because even if your stuff, you know, even if you're not being drug tested, why would you want to waste your money on using something that you might think is trenbolone, or you might think it's actually Masteron, and it's actually testosterone propionate? And you're giving people good money, and you're wasting your time. Or even worse, it might be nothing. You could be completely wasting your money. I can't tell you how many growth hormone tests we sell, and I'm telling you, 50% of the GH comes back as nothing, okay? So the take-home message is test your gear.
Test your gear and put down the pork burritos. Let's go to the questions. The first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience Center. The first question on the never-ending quest to burn fat. Can you explain thyroid levels? What is low and what would benefit from exogenous help? My former coach never really explained or addressed it.
For thyroid, you're talking about? What
I said thyroid.
It was for thyroid hormone? What's it?
Yeah, explain, thyroid levels.
All right, so look, I can give you the best way I can explain it is to explain myself, okay? So I don't produce any thyroid hormone anymore because I have my thyroid removed. So they put me on T4 or L-thyroxine. That's inactive thyroid hormone. That's what my thyroid gland would naturally produce. My body then would converts the T4 that I'm taking into active T3. So my body basically knows what it needs T3-wise, and it'll convert it to me. And that's the best way to replace thyroid hormone, is to give yourself T4. Now, if you have a thyroid gland that functions normally, okay, and you take T4, it's going to do nothing. It's not going to convert because your body's already converting your natural thyroid hormone into T3, which is the active form. So if you're going to supplement with thyroid hormone, you got to take active thyroid hormone, T3. Also, Cytomel is one of the brand names of that. Another brand name would be Sinomel, which is the Mexican version. But what is adequate thyroid function? It's whatever the normal range is, and I don't remember it offhand. The normal range of T3. Okay, so if your thyroid stimulating hormone, which is the pituitary hormone that's produced that stimulates your thyroid, is at the normal level, it would imply your T3 is at normal level. I always tell everyone to check everything, TSH, T4, T3. If they're all normal, then you're good. Raising that up a little bit will increase your metabolic rate a little bit, but really, and I've said this before, your ability to burn fat is really dictated by the metabolic enzymes in your muscle cells, in your mitochondria. How good of a fat metabolizer are you? So while my replacement of thyroid hormone didn't alter anything about my body, I didn't get leaner, I didn't get fatter. And the reason is that thyroid hormone doesn't control my levels of body fat. My mitochondria in my muscle cells, how they burn fat, which is superior to most people's, that's my genetic gift, is still there. As long as I have thyroid hormone turning it on or allowing it to work, then I'm gonna continue to be Dave Palumbo and have Dave Palumbo metabolism. So once again, what's adequate? Do you need to run higher levels? Higher helps a little bit, but it's not gonna turn a genetically fat person into a fat-burning Dave Palumbo machine just by adding thyroid hormone, and that's or even upping it a little bit. That's important to know. However, when you combine like thyroid hormone, T3, with clenbuterol, with a diet, with cardio, then you're going to start burning more fat, okay? And it'll be dictated on an individual by individual basis because everyone's fat burning machinery is different in their body. And that's what you have to remember. It's not the do-all, end-all. It's just another piece of the puzzle that's going to help you to lose weight faster or body fat faster.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, what's glucagon? How does it work? What does it do?
Okay. Glucagon is also produced by the pancreatic cells. There's two types of hormone-producing cells in the pancreas. One's known as the beta cells, which produce insulin, which we know what that does. It drives nutrients into the muscle cells. And then we have another hormone produced by the alpha cells of the pancreas, and that's known as glucagon. And glucagon moves stuff out of the cells. So if you have stored glycogen in your muscle cells or liver, and your body's blood sugar drops, glucagon is released, and glucagon, has the cells or tells the cells liberate glucose into the bloodstream and raise blood sugar because we need more sugar because the blood sugar levels are going low. So they work opposite each other, glucagon and insulin. Now, the cortisol-producing cells in your adrenal glands, okay, can also raise blood sugar, but they do it a different way. They turn amino acids into what? Glucose. That's known as gluconeogenesis, and that can occur in the liver and to some degree in the kidneys. So that's a stress hormone. So if you're really low and your body's under tremendous stress, your body can crank out more glucose via that route as well. But if the muscles have stored glycogen in it, usually if blood sugar drops, glucagon is released. The problem with type 1 diabetics that take insulin is that when you inject insulin and it goes through the liver, a lot of times the body will release glucagon, okay, in response to an insulin injection, which is what you don't want, right? Because here you are trying to drive nutrients into the cells, and your body's releasing glucagon, which is pushing them out of the cells. And that's why type 1 diabetics have to take a lot more insulin, okay, than you would naturally produce to accomplish the same feat, clearing the blood of glucose. So glucagon is not something you would ever inject. You would never use that, but that's what it does inside the body. Excuse me.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us, our handle is official_RxMuscle. If you're watching us for the first time on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. That helps. And as always, we appreciate all of your support now, off season, contest season, or whenever. We do this for you, and we appreciate all the feedback from you, RX Nation, all year long. Dave, tough question here if you're ready for it. It's from Lee Priest. From official Lee Priest, the handle. Should I wear blue or red? A blue or red shirt today, which is more anabolic?
Blue. Blue is definitely more anabolic, I would say. Red is more catabolic because red is the color of the devil, right? I think blue is more anabolic. For some reason, I associate blue with muscle gains, and red with like fat loss. Maybe because red, kind of in my mind, would be associated with raising metabolic rate and burning more calories and stuff like that. So I'd say go blue. Now, I want to just mention one thing, Sid. We do have a giveaway to do today. I think we missed it the last couple of weeks. Although we're not doing the show live though, so we can't do that. But all right, next week when we go back to live next week, we'll do the giveaways, the legendary foods giveaways again.
All right, so Lee, now you know what to wear for today. Let's go. Actually, so we're getting a lot of questions. I don't know if we touched on this in the last episode. A lot of questions about when your next guru course is going to be. Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be in person? So what can you tell the audience for those that are asking?
I'm looking at my calendar right now. I think we have it scheduled for July 10th, to be honest with you. I have to check. I'll have the poster up this week at the end of the week on my DavePalumbo.com website. I think it's going to be online. We're not ready to do anything in person yet because of COVID still. So it will be online, which is great for all the international guys. and girls who want to take the course, because I have people, it's funny, the people like in India, they got to wake up like at like 4 in the morning to take the class. I feel bad for them, but you know what? We always have a great crew. I always have 15 to 20 good people in that class. They ask great questions, and it's going to be, once again, it'll be from 9 in the morning Eastern Standard Time to 6 p.m. We take a break, a 1 hour break for lunch, and it's a really fun class because we go over everything from diet, supplementation, drugs, off-season, pre-contest. I answer every question. I mean, it's so comprehensive that by the end of the day, when I get to 6 p.m., I'm so drained, I can't even speak, because I give a lot of emotional energy to that course. It's really near and dear to my heart. I really feel that educating people, the next generation, or the next generations, I should say, is very important, because I want to make sure that the coaches who come out of this course can take their clients to the next level and be true coaches, not just in the sense that they have experience, but they have the knowledge behind that experience, so they can give people the right information and not give them bro science information that's going to wind up hurting them down the road. So near and dear to me, check it out. Just check my back with my website. I'll also post on my Facebook and Instagram when the next course is. We're making the posts. I believe it is, once again, July 10th weekend. And you'll be able to sign up at the Palumbo University link. And once again, the link will be on my website. So I also want to mention that the questions we addressed earlier in the show related to the Dave Palumbo Experience app. If people don't know what that is, that's the app we offer. You can download it at the iTunes Store and Android Store. And it's $29 a month, and you get access to everything I've ever written, everything I've ever done video-wise, all in one place. We put up a workout every single week. I answer everyone's questions on the app. So if you have questions for me, they get answered on the app in a public forum. So everyone sees everyone's questions and everyone's answers, which is, I always wanted to do that, because I like to see what other people are asking. Because a lot of times it's a question I have and I don't even remember. And this way it's an educational tool. So you're constantly going on there, reading people's questions and answers, and you're learning on a regular basis. And then I also do a Q&A video, kind of like Ask Dave, except it's an extra one, more education based on the questions of the app members, and that goes up once a week as well. So you get a lot of value for your money, and you got a personal trainer in your pocket. So you might want to check that out.
You have a lot of good questions. Let's see how many we can get through. Let's go to Peck Pockman. Dave, is natural competitive bodybuilding really natural? As in, are they competitive, completely clean, or are some mild form of drugs involved now? I mean, just if you can go back into clients you've coached, what you've seen, what you've heard, the truth behind the matter.
There's no such thing as natural bodybuilding. Are some people 100% natural in the sense that they don't use any illegal performance-enhancing drugs? Absolutely. Are all the people who compete in natural competitions natural? No. Because for most of these organizations, they call themselves natural, but they're really just drug-tested organizations. You beat the drug test, then you beat the drug test. I mean, that's what the Olympics are. You think the Olympics are natural? Come on. It's called beat the drug test. Sometimes you fail the drug test, like this runner we just saw, recently, who's banned for 4 years. You're rolling the dice. If you pass the drug test, you win the Olympic gold, and you're a hero. If you fail it, you're a criminal. That's how you're branded in this country, okay? And this is unfortunately how it goes. So are there natural competitions out there? They say they are. Is everyone natural? No. Are some people natural? Absolutely. And that's a personal choice you have to make. I just feel that if you're going to use anabolics and you're going to use drugs that are banned by these organizations, you might as well compete in an organization that doesn't test you. Because why be a fraud? You know what I mean? Those organizations should be reserved for people who don't want to take drugs, that feel like it's a protected environment. But unfortunately, it just isn't that, because people want to be champions. They don't care if they have to cheat. They don't care if they're going to be the big fish in a small pond. It doesn't matter to them. I competed in a natural organization for one or two times when I was natural. And you know what? The second time I competed, people thought I wasn't natural. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this stuff. You know what? The truth is, I want to be the best. And if I want to be the best, I got to use stuff. So I started using some anabolics, and I never competed in a natural organization again. because I said, you know what, if I'm going to be the best, I got to compete against the best. And if it's my choice how much I want to use or not use. Just because you compete in an organization that uses drugs doesn't mean you have to use the most drugs of anyone out there, because the amount of drugs you use is not analogous to how well you place. As much as some people may think that that's the case, it's not. Okay, taking a threshold amount, eating right, training right, sleeping enough, having some genetic predisposition, those are the keys to success in bodybuilding. And if you think it's all drugs, you don't know what you're talking about.
Let's go to Tank MCG. Not sure if I asked this question last week because I saw the same question, but I'll ask it if you remember it. We'll move on to the next one. Does posing or flexing the muscle being worked between sets have any value?
You know, I don't think it makes you harder or leaner, or I think what it does is it gives you a better mind-muscle connection. That's what I found to be the hardest when I was going through body. I found it hard to be able to control the muscle that I wanted to use, not only in a workout sense, but in a posing sense on stage. Now, as I got bigger, it became easier, maybe because I had more muscle and I could feel it better, but really what I felt was that the more I practiced my posing, the better body awareness I had. Some people just genetically just pick things up and have really good body awareness. They know where they are in space, they compose well, they move well. You know, other people need to practice a million times over to get that same, to build up those neural pathways. That's me. I'm a guy I got to practice it mechanically 1,000 times, and then, because I'm a creative person, then I can creatively, hit my shots and move creatively, because now it's ingrained in my neural pathways, and now I can artistically release it. I can't do two things at one time. You could ask my wife. If I'm working on the computer and she's talking to me, I don't hear anything. I'm like in my own little world. Whereas I know people that can. My wife can multitask. She can watch TV. She can be yelling at the kids, and she can be sending out orders on the computer, and she won't make a single mistake. So everyone is a little different like that, and I think that you have to just accept and figure out what kind of person you are. And if you need to work more on your posing because you just don't have that body awareness, you don't move well on stage, you can learn to. The key is not saying, well, I'm just not good on stage, I'm not going to practice. No, that means you got to practice more than the other person.
Let's go to Leon James Fit. Dave, you've explained that GH causes new muscle fibers, and you will start to see the difference around the 6 mark, 6 week mark period, depending on the dose. The question that follows that is, if you build new muscle tissue from, say, a year or two of GH, and then stop all gear and working out, once you start back up training in gear, will you have muscle memory to build back the tissue that GH caused that you never got with anabolics, or will you have to get back on GH?
No, what I explained was that when you take a compound like growth hormone or IGF-1 and you're producing new cells, okay, you're turning stem cells, which we used to call satellite cells, now they're called stem cells. We turn these stem cells, which are basically blobs of nothing, and we turn them into muscle tissue, okay, using the growth hormone, which will differentiate these stem cells and turn them into muscle fibers. Okay, once we do that, they're muscle fibers. Now, in order to see the results of those new muscle fibers we produce, which are they're going to be microscopic cells, we want to get them enlarged. How do we enlarge muscle cells? Well, we train, right? We break them down, we build them up, okay? We take steroids, which make them bigger. So the GH makes the cells, but then we have to make those cells bigger. That's why I said there's usually like a lag of 6 months. And it's not 6 weeks, 6 months, I find. So the cells that you've created today, in 6 months, you'll see them get to their full size. If you train hard and you do everything else right, of course. Now, if you stop training and those cells shrink up again, you still have those muscle cells, they're just smaller. And that's what muscle memory is, right? Because now you go back to training again after taking off a couple months, and boom, they blow right up because you already got those new cells there. They're not changing. Once you've turned them into muscle, they're muscle. And those nuclei are not going away. They may get smaller, but they're still there. So once you want them back, you just have to start eating and training again, and they come back pretty fast because you're just blowing up the size of those cells. You don't have to take GH to do it. You don't even have to take steroids to do it. But if you take steroids and you train heavy, they're going to get bigger faster.
Let's go to Cobb Brady. This is about your competition career, but if you have any successful stories of clients as well, your most successful contest carb load protocol.
I tried a lot of different things. I used to, when I originally started training and competing, and was in the early 90s when I was really doing, first started doing well, I didn't eat any fat. It was like it was protein and carbs, and I would carb up. I would just load tons of carbs and I could not get full enough. And it would be, and so what I would usually do is I would have like a pancakes and syrup and butter on the morning of the show, and that would fill me out a little bit, but I always looked better the next day after eating like a maniac Saturday night. And then I realized, as part of my whole, I guess you could say, quest to figure out, the whole fat equation, fats are necessary. Fats actually go into the cells, and they actually add volume to the cell too. There's something called intramuscular fat. And some of that is necessary for fullness. And so my most successful carb load was when I realized I didn't really need as many carbs as I was eating. I needed a lot more fat. I couldn't cut the fat out, because by taking away the fat, your body what happens is when you start eating carbs and carb loading, you basically stimulate your metabolism. So what's happening is a lot of those, especially if you have a fast metabolism like mine, I could eat 500, 600, 700 grams of carbs for the day, but my body is using them all for energy because my metabolism is going through the roof. If you have fat as a buffer in there, your body can use some of that fat as fuel, and a lot of those carbs now that you're eating will get stored as glycogen, as opposed to just being consumed as energy. And that's when I realized what the formula was. So the last couple of years, from 2001, 2, 3, it's like all the years in the 2000, those 4 years from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, I realized that I didn't need to eat 1,000 grams of carbs to carb up. I can eat, 300-400 grams of carbs, okay? And I can keep my fat high at 150 grams or whatever I was eating, 160 grams of fat per day, along with my protein, which I didn't lower. That's another mistake. People think, oh, you don't need as much protein because I'm eating more carbs. If you lower your calories, okay, or keep your calories the same and just change the composition, you're not going to carb up adequately. So I needed to keep my food intake high and add carbs. And that's what I did. I didn't reduce fats. I didn't reduce protein. I added carbs on top of all that stuff. And that's when I looked full, but yet I wasn't blowing out my gut and constipating myself because I was eating 1,000 grams of carbs a day. And that's what works for me. And it works for 99% of my clients. Every once in a while, you got a freak show that you got to do crazy stuff with. But for most people, that's the way to go with it. Don't cut the fat and protein back. Add some carbs. Depending on how carb sensitive the person is or how much they need to carb up, that'll dictate how much you give them.
Let's go to Ivan at Banyan. That's good friend of the show. Which creates more hamstring growth? Leg curl machines or deadlift variations? Overloading the stretch position or the peak of the contraction?
Look, I'm a big believer in squats and deadlifts build the whole leg, and hamstring, glutes. That's a lot of deadlift. You get a lot of stimulation in there, and I'm not talking straight leg deadlifts. I'm talking regular deadlifts, pressing off the floor, pulling that weight off. Squats, when you're lowering that weight, that's all hamstring, So you're not going to get huge, thick, massive hamstrings from doing leg curls. Okay, does it help? Of course it does. Okay, is it going to give you the dense look that you see like some of these freaks have on stage? No, that's lowering the weight on the leg press, lowering the weight on squats. Okay, deadlifting, pulling that weight off the floor, squeezing those glutes and hamstrings. And let me tell you something: the adductors, the inner thighs, are really important to the hamstring pose, because when you put that leg back, a lot of that stuff that hangs back there is not just hamstring, it's adductor too. On the side pose, when you put your legs together and you see that nice drop, that we call that hamstring drop, it's really not a hamstring drop, it's really an adductor drop. The inner thigh gets pressed against the other one, it hangs, and then just the little edge of the back of your leg is your hamstring. But it's a lot of adductor in there too. So don't neglect the adductor compartment. Open your stance up when you're squatting, deadlifting, or pressing. Let those adductors work.
Let's go to the Wrexham Rhino. When should you get your blood work done post-show? Also, how long would you say to stay off for a proper clear out?
I tell people wait at least 4 weeks to get blood work done after your last anabolics shot, because it takes at least 3 or 4 weeks to clear all that crap out of your system. Probably the best bet would be do your whole, clean out, right before you go back on cycle, usually after, should be about 8 to 10 weeks of clean out, okay? That's when you should get your blood work done. So when you're clean, you're 8 weeks off, go get tested, check your kidney function, liver function, all the other stuff that goes along with that. And then, and I've given out, I send all the time the list of blood work that people should get done if you want to contact me. And you'll see a true, or a pretty true snapshot of what's going on in your body. If you go right after you competed, a week or two after, you're going to have levels all over the place, okay? That's normal. I mean, that's to be expected, I should say. So try to wait till your body cleans out and starts regenerating a little bit, then go get tested.
This question from Elaine, it's a simple question, but we have a special episode, Dave, of Guru Talk, a show where if you haven't watched Guru Talk, the premise of the show is where we bring on gurus, we bring on experts, who really dive into the deep science of bodybuilding, health. Special episode. Well, the question is about lowering DHT, but Dave, if you want to maybe give some insight on this upcoming episode of Guru Talk, DHT, how to keep your hair all tied in, and a very special guest.
Yeah, well, we're all going to love this episode because I know we're all of us here that are in this room today are interested in keeping our hair. And Jay Campbell is very, very knowledgeable in this whole pursuit of hair regrowth. Okay, and I've been into this whole thing. Also, anyone who's lost hair and likes hair. Some people shave their head; they don't even care. I look like a murderer if I shave my head, so I like to have a little bit of hair in my head. And Jay Campbell's doing a lot of research on copper peptides and their regenerative effect on the hair follicle of the head, and how you can control also some of the hair regrowth via diet, reducing inflammation in your body. So we have a really good Guru Talk coming out. I'm a very high DHT converter. That means that I convert a lot of my testosterone into DHT genetically. When I got my DNA tested, it verified that as well. I have a defect. I convert too much testosterone to DHT, which is probably why my whole life I used to break out with acne when I was a kid, and and was very oily and stuff like that, my skin, because I'm a big DHT converter. Now, to give you an idea of how much DHT I produce, I'm on no hormone replacement, just whatever my body naturally produces testosterone-wise, which is about 400 to 500, on a total testosterone test. That's what my body naturally produces. I take finasteride every single day for the last 20 years, 2.5 milligrams. And my DHT levels are not low. They're like normal, in the middle range, which tells you that if I didn't take it, I would be through the roof, okay? Has it made me grow back any hair? Probably not. Has it slowed or stopped my hair loss? Maybe. I think it might have, and that's why I stay on it. It's also protective for my prostate, because I'm a DHT converter, a high one. Okay, what Jay Campbell kind of revealed on this episode is that a lot of what we think, the old thinking was that if we can get DHT levels low, we're going to regrow hair or preserve the hair that we have on our head, and that's just it's never been the case. It's not consistent, So in other words, some people notice good results, some people don't notice results. So it's not just DHT that causes hair loss. There's a genetic component to it, obviously, but what Jay was explaining, and you'll see on this episode, is that a lot of it has to do with the health of your scalp and the blood flow to your scalp. If the blood flow gets reduced, okay, you lose hair. And there is a way to bring back the blood flow there. And if you watch this episode, it's absolutely tremendous. I learned a ton of information from there. And I'm going to tell you ways that you can actually bring back your hair growth and restore it relatively quickly within the scope of probably 90 days. So check that Guru Talk out. I think people will really like it.
That Guru Talk going live tomorrow, noon Eastern time on the RxMuscle YouTube channel. Before we ask our final question, again, if you are watching us for the first time, subscribe below, hit that notification bell, just like tomorrow's episode of Guru Talk, yesterday's episode of After Hours, and then, of course, our live episode of Heavy Muscle Radio on Monday, where we had special guest Sergio Oliva Jr., who came on and talked about, the video that he posted over the weekend and some of his thoughts as far as I guess, his news getting out when he intended to put it out. So he clarified everything on that end and then issued a challenge to some of the top bodybuilders to compete at this upcoming the Arnold Classic, the Arnold Classic invite list being announced yesterday. So again, all that and more. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss anything coming up on the RxMuscle YouTube channel. Final question from Tattoo by Tony. Do you think it's possible that Brandon Curry could bring up his legs enough? Now, Brandon Curry and his coach, Abdullah, posting a picture over the last couple of days from the 2020 prep. You see Brandon Curry, his condition back. Obviously, it's universally known, Brandon Curry, one of the most evolved upper bodies, one of the most evolved bodybuilders on the scene. But obviously, many people were talking about his legs after finishing second to Big Ramy last year. So could he bring up his legs enough to the point where he could have a chance to win the Olympia title back? And I guess I'll add to that, in comparison to someone like that of a Big Ramy.
I think it's important to understand, first of all, let's look at Dexter Jackson and Victor Martinez, who were two of the greatest bodybuilders, of our era. They didn't have great legs, okay? They had balance to their body, okay? And that's what it's about. They had harmony. Victor's, he was the original X-frame guy. His body wasn't anything huge about anything. Ramy's got these huge monster quads, but the reason why Victor and Dexter did so well is because everything flowed well, and when they were in shape, they were almost impossible to beat because of that structure. That's Brandon Curry. Curry won the Olympia because he was genetically just perfect in the sense that he had an X-frame. His legs are never going to be big. They don't need to be. They just need to be really hard and full enough. And if he puts that formula together where he gets everything in harmony with each other, when he's posing on stage, he's so pleasurable to look at. His physique is so pleasing to the eye that it's like you want to see the guy win. So the question is, can Curry beat Ramy? The answer to that is absolutely yes. He can win this show and become Mr. Olympia again with the tools he has right now. Just showing up at his best, full enough and hard enough. However, Ramy holds the cards in his hand now. He's Mr. Olympia. He's the biggest guy on stage. He's got good symmetry for a big guy. The question is he going to come in shape? If he comes in like he was last year or even a little better, no one's beating him because because bodybuilding, after all, is about muscle, and he's got more muscle than everyone on that stage, and he's Mr. Olympia. However, if Ramy comes in off, and we've seen him off before, he's only been in shape one time this past season. If he comes in off, which I don't think he's going to, but if he does, that opens the door to the next level of guys that are knocking at the door. The Hadi Chupins, the Brandon Currys, the William Bonacks. And if Curry's at his best, being a former Mr. Olympia, he has a very good chance of winning the Mr. Olympia title. So my advice to Brandon is don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to come in too big and give up your conditioning. Play to your strengths. Bring that to the stage. Dexter did it his whole career. He was always right there waiting for people to screw up, and then he would win the show. And he did it 30 times, right? Or 20. How many times did he do it? I don't even know.
28?
29? He did it 29 to 30 times. So the point is that Dexter, is a great model for Brandon to follow. You don't have to be the biggest guy. Just be the best guy.
So there you have it. That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder, tomorrow, noon Eastern Standard Time on the RxMuscle YouTube channel, new episode of Guru Talk. For all of those of you looking to keep your hair, who lost some hair, looking to grow it back, this episode is going to be for you. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.